Hey, you guys, Byron from Kingdom Training. I got asked a fantastic question today, and I thought I would just share that question and just some of my thoughts on that. And the question was, is there a term for people who still believe in God or Jesus that don't belong to a church but still promote their teachings? That is a fair question. And the short answer is no. No, there isn't really a name for a group of people that have effectively left all aspects of Christianity and Christian religion, but are still effectively operating directed under Christ and promoting the teachings of Christ, probably via the Bible, but without any reference to or support from Christianity, religion, the church, or anything like that. I would imagine that there are many people in that position, however, but I certainly don't know of any name or any, group extending from that. At Kingdom Training, we sort of call that term like Religious Anonymous, people that are in recovery stage from religion and have maintained enough of God in their heart to know that God is true, but have been thrown around enough by religion to realise that religion is not for them, and really anything whatsoever to do with that, which is the people, possibly the book, the building, the organisation and authority and all of that sort of stuff, which again a lot of people, hopefully, thankfully and by the grace of God, can be absolutely butchered in a situation like that, their lives, and will pop out the end of it still with God in their heart. And that is the nature of God, and that when it really comes down to it, it is very evident to us that God is not religion and God is not those things. And by virtue of God not being those things, neither is Jesus. Christianity is a religion of people that are following, in principle, the values and teachings of Jesus. That is the basic idea of that, but the truth and the fact of the matter is that religion is not doing that. Christianity is not following the explicit directives and teachings of Jesus. The model and the operational model and overall directives and agendas and modern day beliefs of Christianity do not line up to Jesus' words, actions, beliefs, or really anything at all. It is something quite different, and the only common point is the use of the word Christ, and that it is essentially founded upon and referring to this man, but it is referring to Jesus and not of Christ, and that is a wholly different conversation. So yes, a lot of people will have maintained a deep relationship to God and maintained their connection to God and to Jesus as an expression of God, and as a highly relevant expression of God at any time, especially today, but may not want a bar of any of the rest of it. And that is very understandable. And it is, as I said, very clear through folks in that situation that you can see God and Jesus are nothing to do with religion, and that you can drop all aspects of Christianity and religion in every way, shape or form, especially the ways that you don't like it. You can drop all of that stuff completely, and you can reintroduce yourself to Christ and to God and vice versa, and find everything that you realised should have been there from the start, but you just couldn't find it because of all of the frames and the translator barriers that you encountered. So I don't know of a group, I don't know of any kind of a term or a reference for folks that are actively working with the Bible independently, but who kind of won't call themselves Christians. There are not many folks that I know of who still wholly anchor to and are devoted to Jesus in whatever way that means for them, but would actively not call themselves Christian. That's a little tricky. God is a different story, and many people will happily disregard religion and say, I still completely believe in God. Within spiritual circles, we find that God has taken on a slightly different term, and we now use the safe words like universe and source of all that is, and all of those sorts of things. And the reason that we use those words is because within spirituality, we are still wholly acknowledging God, but we wholly can't get it together and realize that God is not religion. And so we use these terms as very conscious disassociation, not from God, but from religion. We are trying to differentiate spirituality from religion by calling God something a little more spiritualized, where really it's still we're still talking about God. We're just so sensitive to the social connotations of that we're very sensitive to using the word God, because people think we're religious rather than spiritual, and yeah, that has the negative connotations. So yes, a lot of people believe in God still, and you would find people who totally believe in God in spirituality, in philosophy, in a number of those practices which are God-oriented, but the word God is something really quite different. The name of God is something quite different to the universe or source of all that is. It really is. And when you hear the word God, and when you know God, not know the word, when you know God, you realise that has nothing to do with spirituality. But in truth, it also has nothing to do with religion. And it really has nothing to do with any other template of translation that man has created in this space. God is a whole other being that is encompassing and inclusive of those things, but is not effectively represented by any one of those things. It's very, very tricky business to stay connected to God and to do that in a social setting, while rejecting all of the current social settings for their inaccuracies and lack of true love and devotion to God, like religion, and certainly like the hollowness of spirituality. I have only really found one other person in the public space that fits this bill in terms of their personal experience of having very much been embedded in religiosity and Christianity and all of that, and then via a series of events in his life really dropped the entire bundle of it, the church, the religion, all of it, but found that he couldn't drop Jesus and could not drop God, of course, and so rediscovered God and Jesus well out of the building. And his name is Jim Palmer. Jim Palmer is an author and has written a number of fantastic books about his own personal journey out of religion and out of Christianity and moving into solely God and recognising God in humanity, and seeing God via the humanity of people, and the connection of people that is wholly relatable to all men on earth, and that is more authentically aligned to what Jesus both said and did than anything you might find in the Christian religion. Even if you go digging, it really does come down to humanity and humanities, and Jim Palmer is a fantastic advocate of that, and a very articulate and entertaining author who's written some great books on that subject. But other than Jim, I really don't know of anyone else outside of our own space of Kingdom Training International that work in supporting people in this area. Either folks that have come from a religious frame or a religious background, or have been sort of swimming in the pool of spirituality and philosophies and all of those things for a while, but just not finding God in any of that stuff. Having wonderful intellectual learnings about all of this kind of stuff, but there's still a godless space in the heart. There's still a vacuum, for the relationship has not been activated and ignited. All of these signposts and vehicles are only to get you to God. They're only to get you to the point. Religion is not the end of the road, and neither is spirituality as a field or even as a practice. They are functional for a purpose, and they are to ignite an ongoing, established relationship with God in your heart, which is very real, and is not based on your practices. Your practices are only to assist your focus. You don't need those things, but you do need those things for a time. And so religion and spirituality serve those purposes, and we acknowledge that. But over a time, they can be very damaging and very disheartening, and very distracting from the truth of our relationship to God, which is all that we're doing and everything else is about. So, I mean, if this is something that is relevant for you, or if this is hitting a deep spot for you, and you're recognizing what I'm referring to, we would love to speak more with you and share more with you about ways that you can experience and reawaken to God and remember God in your heart as a living experience that inspires you and moves you forward and lends context to everything. You know who you are, you know what is going on, you know what to do, you know in ways that the world that you see it is so distressed because they do not, and are running around crazily because they do not. And the only thing that lends true context to your existence and existential crises is God, not religion and not anything else, not spirituality. It is God. Kingdom Training is a publicly available space and community for people that have maintained God in their heart and are fired up about God and enough to even explore and be open to the idea of re-exploring Jesus, and not in a religious way. We talk about Jesus every day. We refer to Jesus in all of our trainings and our courses and everything, but not in any way that is to do with worship, or ways that are explained in the church. Jesus is not the role model of sacrifice. You owe Jesus nothing. It isn't based on anything that you've been told. It is so radically different, and we love sharing this with people, because Jesus becomes something very functional and real and practical in your day in 2019 in ways that you couldn't imagine, where you might never look at a Bible or enter a church or do anything like that again, and you would never call yourself Christian. Yet Jesus has sharply become the front and centre of your life and the focal point of what you do. It's very hard to fathom how that can be. But we would love to share more with you about how that can be. I assure you, Jesus really is the answer. He really is the way and the life, but not the way you've been told. Please let us share more with you. But thank you very much to the person that asked that question. It really is a wonderful question. How do you do God outside of religion, and how do you do Jesus outside of Christianity? Wonderful stuff. Blessings.